Coming up on First at 4, we talk to Floyd County officials about more than $1 million coming in from FEMA. And we find out why being prescribed antibiotics in moderation is important for keeping your immune system intact.
Plus, we could see some more rain chances for parts of this weekend. Those details coming up as Mountain News First at 4 continues.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
The Federal Reserve wrapped up its two-day meeting on interest rates. Since 2022, the board has raised interest rates 11 times to ease inflation, but has not increased rates since July. CBS's Bradley Blackburn tells us what the Fed decided to do this time.
With consumer prices cooling, the Federal Reserve is leaving interest rates alone.
We're seeing a labor market that is coming back into balance by so many measures, and we're seeing inflation making real progress. These are the things we've been wanting to see. We can't know. We still have a ways to go. No one is declaring victory. That would be premature.
Over the past 2 years, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell and the board gradually pushed its key rate to a 22-year high to fight inflation. A report out Tuesday shows inflation has dropped from 2022's peak of 9.1% to just 3.1%. This is the third time in a row the central bank decided against another hike. The question now, when will the Fed start cutting rates? Economic projections from the board point to the possibility of 3 small rate cuts in 2024, but Powell wouldn't offer a timeline.
These projections are not a committee decision or plan. If the economy does not evolve as projected, the path of policy will adjust.
It's hard to predict that right now.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says the Fed wants inflation at just 2%. For that to happen, the economy needs to weaken, but businesses are still hiring and consumers continue to spend.
Despite the fact that everyone really thought we were going to be heading into a recession in 2023, the U.S. economy has defied expectations. And until we see the labor market slow down and the economy slow more dramatically, the Fed is not going to be in any rush to cut interest rates.
The Federal Reserve makes its next decision on rates in late January. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Back here at home, projects in Floyd County received FEMA funding, seeing progress for some properties impacted by the 2022 floods. FEMA announced more than $1.6 million in federal funding will be designated for property buyouts in Floyd County and a program to manage the progress. Floyd County Judge Executive Robbie Williams says the funding helps families rebuild in a new space, crediting Missy Allen at the Fiscal Court and Eric Ratliff at Big Sandy Ad for working so hard to help the funding flow.
They've done a spectacular job, and if we could give them a gold medal, that's what we should give them, because they've really gone above and beyond to ensure that this stuff is moving quickly.
$1.5 million of the funding will allow the Fiscal Court to pay for 13 flooded properties and turn them into green space. Hear more about the FEMA funds and the future coming up at 6. 4 people were found dead after a house fire in Madison, Indiana on Tuesday. You can see the smoke pouring out of the house as crews work to contain the flames. Indiana State Police confirmed there were life-saving measures performed, but all the victims were pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation into how the fire started is still ongoing.
Hopefully our investigators have been working hard throughout the night to piece together all the facts surrounding this case and to give an overall picture of what exactly happened, because at the end of the day, families are grieving the loss of loved ones, and we owe them that information about what happened to their loved ones, and so that's what our investigators are doing at this point.
Indiana State Police say the roof of the home did collapse.
Well, the forecast is a 10 out of 10 on this Wednesday afternoon. We see plenty of blue sky and sunshine this afternoon. Here's a live look from the Buffalo Mountain camera. You can see hardly a cloud in the sky, and temperatures across the mountains are above average for most of us. We should be close to 48, but notice most of us in the 50s at this hour, up to 54 in Somerset, 55 in Manchester, also Monticello. A little bit cooler in the Big Sandy Valley, down to 44 in Grundy, and 46 over in Pikeville. on this Wednesday afternoon. As we go into the rest of your work week, some more dry, also sunny weather on the way by Thursday, Friday, and those temperatures also stay above average to close out the work week. Highs back in the middle to possibly upper 50s. But again, we are tracking the potential for that next rainmaker by Sunday, also Monday of next week. But until then, some more fantastic weather is on the way. As you can see, that high pressure system is the big story to kick off the weekend. More dry weather is on the way, but those rain chances, they do increase by Sunday, and they linger into your Monday as well. Once that system passes, we are trending cooler into next week. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thanks. The CDC deems it an urgent global public health threat. Antimicrobial resistance can make treating infections hard, sometimes even impossible. Mandy Gaither has more on the dangers of antibiotic overuse and what you can do to keep you and your family safe.
Antibiotics. They're some of the most powerful and important drugs out there, serving as a critical line of defense along with antifungals in the treatment of routine infections and chronic diseases.
These drugs save lives every single day.
But anytime we use antibiotics, they can cause what's called antimicrobial resistance, meaning germs develop the ability to resist or defeat the drugs designed to kill them, says Michael Craig with the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
When the germs do become resistant, the infections that they cause will become difficult and sometimes impossible to treat.
In the U.S., more than 2.8 million antimicrobial resistant infections happen each year, killing more than 35,000 people, according to the CDC's 2019 Antibiotic Resistance Threat Report.
This is why we should only use antibiotics when they are necessary. If we don't, these life-saving medicines may not work for future generations.
To protect against this resistance, Craig says to always take medication exactly as prescribed. Don't share medication with others or save the medicine for later, and safely discard leftover pills.
It's important to remember that we can prevent infections from happening in the first place. By practicing good hygiene like hand washing and keeping your cuts covered and clean, you can keep yourself and your family safe from infections.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Craig says being up to date on vaccinations can also help prevent infections and the spread of germs, which means fewer antibiotics and antifungals will be needed in the first place. Officials with the CDC say that more than 500,000 Americans have taken advantage of its CDC Bridge Access program. The program provides free COVID-19 vaccines to anyone who wants one. In Iowa, many healthcare providers are working to make more vaccines more accessible.
Of course, for us, it was a no-brainer. We want to be able to provide access to the vaccines for people who don't have health insurance or for people whose health insurance won't cover the vaccine.
The health department says through the program alone, they have provided 61 vaccines. Coming up on First at 4, we see how the Sandy Hook community is still remembering the lives lost after a mass shooting almost 11 years ago.
And high pressure brings more dry weather as we go into tonight. Those details coming up after this break.